I remember thinking it was oddly phrased, just a quick dinner with family. My mother had sent it mid-afternoon, like it was something casual, something that didn't require much thought. I almost didn't go. Not out of protest, just fatigue. These things had a way of leaving me quieter than when I arrived. But I went anyway. I told myself it was easier than explaining why I didn't. The restaurant was one we'd been to before. Not often, but enough that it carried a sense of occasion. Dim lighting, polished surfaces, the kind of place where conversations sound more important than they are. I saw them before they saw me. My parents, my aunt, my cousins. A long table already half filled with menus and glasses of water. There was an extra chair at the end, but my mother noticed me first and stood. Her smile came quickly, but it didn't reach all the way. "Oh, you're here," she said, as if confirming something tentative. Then, almost immediately, she gestured behind me. "You can sit at that table in the back. We need space here for everyone." She said it lightly. Like logistics. Like it made perfect sense. I followed her gesture. A smaller table. 2 seats, no place settings yet, I nodded. That was the part I'd gotten good at, responding without asking questions that would make things uncomfortable for everyone else. "Of course," I said. No one objected. No one even paused long enough for it to feel like a decision. I walked to the back table and sat down. From there I could still hear them, but it was different. Laughter didn't carry the same way. Conversations blurred into something indistinct, like background noise you eventually stopped trying to understand. A server came over. Polite, professional. Asked if I was part of the larger group. "Yes," I said after a moment. "Just seated separately." They nodded, not questioning it. I ordered a drink. Something simple. Something that would give me a reason to sit there for a few minutes without looking like I was waiting for something more. And then I just watched. Not them exactly, more the space between things. The way my father leaned in when he spoke to my cousin. The way my mother adjusted plates, making sure everything looked right. The way no one turned around. It wasn't new. That was the part that settled in more heavily than anything else. This wasn't a mistake, it was a pattern I'd kept explaining away. I thought about other dinners, other small adjustments I'd made without noticing. Sitting at the edge, leaving early, being the one who adapted. For a long time I'd told myself it wasn't intentional, that families just arranged themselves this way sometimes. But sitting there, alone at a table meant for 2, I realized something simpler. It didn't matter if it was intentional. The effect was the same. The server returned with my drink. Set it down gently. "Will anyone else be joining you?" they asked. I looked at the main table, then back at them. "No," I said. Then, after a brief pause, I reached into my wallet and placed my card on the tray. "Actually, can you do me a favor?" They leaned slightly closer, attentive. I kept my voice even. Not secretive, not dramatic. "That table over there," I said, nodding subtly. "I'd like to cover it." Quietly. There was a flicker of surprise, quickly replaced by professionalism. "Of course," they said. "Would you like us to let them know?" I shook my head. "No. Just process it." They hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded again. "I understand." It wasn't a grand decision. It didn't feel like one, at least. It felt administrative. Like closing something that had been left open too long. I stood before the drink was even half finished. Left it there, untouched enough to suggest I hadn't been lingering. At the front I spoke briefly with the host. Confirmed my name. Confirmed the table. Signed where they indicated. Everything was clean. Document. Final. Then I stepped outside. The air felt different. Not lighter, exactly. Just clearer. I didn't wait around. Didn't check my phone. I walked to my car and sat there for a minute, hands resting on the steering wheel, not starting the engine yet. I tried to feel something definitive. Satisfaction maybe, or anger finally resolved. But what came instead was quieter. Relief in a narrow, specific sense. Like I had finally responded to something I'd spent years pretending not to notice. I drove home before anything could happen. The messages came later. The first one was confusion. Then irritation. Then my father. "Why is the bill over $1,700? I stared at the screen for a long time before opening it, not because I didn't understand the question, but because I understood it too well. There were follow-ups. Assumptions layered over each other. Someone must have made a mistake. The restaurant must have mischarged them, and then eventually the shift. A staff member explaining, calmly, clearly, pointing to the authorization, the card, the confirmation. Authority in its most ordinary form, not loud, not negotiable. I imagined my father standing there, voice raised just enough to signal control slipping. My mother beside him, trying to piece together what had happened without asking the one question that mattered: why? Another message came through: you need to explain this. I didn't answer right away. For once, silence didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like space I was allowed to take. When I finally did respond, it was brief. I thought you needed space for the real group. I read it twice before sending. Not to sharpen it, but to make sure it said exactly what it needed to. Nothing more. There wasn't an immediate reply. Later, there were more messages. Some defensive, some attempting to soften the edges of what had happened. None quite naming it. No one said, "We shouldn't have asked you to sit separately." No one said, "That wasn't right." And somehow, that made things clearer than if they had. In the days that followed, nothing dramatic happened. No confrontation. No resolution. Just a subtle shift. I stopped saying yes automatically. Stopped rearranging myself to fit into spaces that had already decided my size. We still speak. Occasionally. Carefully. But something has changed in how I arrive. If I arrive at all. I don't wait to be placed anymore. And I don't sit at tables that were never meant to include me.